like to call the February 10th meeting to order. It is 6:30. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions to the agenda?
We do not.
Anybody else? I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Move.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Should I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 13th regular meeting and January 20th workshop?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And we're going to kick things off with a discussion about the capital project. Do we have them on virtually?
Yeah, me.
I sent him a link.
I have one?
Paul does, but, yeah.
Does he have the link for the Zoom meeting link or the other
Yeah,
link?
the Zoom meeting link.
So we won't be able to see him
Oh,
on the Zoom meeting.
Hold on.
Okay.
But I don't have a microphone hooked up. Just give me a second.
Oh, he can't see
us?
Oh, you can't.
She's likewise good. She'll be good. I'll be enjoying your class so much.
That's good. That's good. You've enjoyed her. She was a hoot today again.
How's work?
Work is good. We have a test in chemistry. A bonus course. And we take that. The top-notch students do that. Try to figure out what makes sense. Did you write? Did you meditate? Okay, does that make sense? She did fine.
Okay. She's trying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she has, yes, great questions.
Yeah, she's right.
Always a good meeting.
Thank you.
She's really, Claire has
The-
high school students.
Thank you for doing all this.
Yeah.
I really
I hope
enjoyed
there
it.
were different more, but I'm glad you two did well.
They are excited.
Yes, I'm excited.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us okay?
You're in the
Yes,
video.
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Aren't we right in, aren't I right in the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I will move.
That's very clear.
We can sit right beside each other.
We can.
Please for people. Matt, I'll turn things over to you
Sure.
to get started.
Paul, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. A familiar face now to us here at HCS, Paul Johnson from King & King Architects is here to give a brief presentation. Later on in the agenda, as you've seen there, we anticipate awarding the majority of the bids that were received last week for phase 3 of our capital project. As we've been discussing throughout, because of all of the conditions that are present economically and post an ongoing COVID as compared to phase 1, things are a little tougher this time around. With that said, we're pretty happy with what we received, and prior to awarding any of these bids, we thought it would be prudent to have Paul join us and sort of walk us through the process up to the opening of the bids and give us a little rundown of where we are at now that they've been received. So with that, I will turn it over to Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Great, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, well, sorry to cause such a ruckus and make everybody move, but thank you for your time. So yes, we just had a bid opening. So the process that led to that, this is phase 3. So you've been through this twice already, and parts of it, this is your third time around as part of this larger project referendum. So obviously we completed our construction documents. It wasn't that long ago. We presented some renderings of the overall project to you. Again, just as a good recap before we went into bidding, we just went through a month of bidding. So essentially the month of January, contractors had access to the drawings and specs. They put together their costs, working with all their subcontractors, vendors, manufacturers, really the hundreds of people that go into putting together a bid and making a project. So that whole process concluded last week. We received bids and publicly opened them on campus or at your building. We then took a day and processed those bids, called contractors, and essentially went through what we call the vetting process. We give them an opportunity to make sure they're comfortable with their numbers now that they sort of the dust has settled. You know, leading up to a bid is a very fast-paced process for contractors. They have numbers coming in from all different directions, and so this gives them you know, a day to go back, check their numbers, make sure there's not any sort of catastrophic math error in there. And then we walk them through a whole series of questions where you know, just based on sort of our history, our experience, we know select questions to ask them to make sure that they've included really important things in the project, or items where we know there's a tendency for subcontractors to tell a contractor that something may be acceptable or not for us. There's a very clear process in place for contractors to ask those questions during a bid, and we encourage them very strongly throughout the process to make sure that they're doing that. So we go through that whole process again, ask all those questions, and ultimately get them, or all of us get to a point where we're comfortable with recommending them to you after obviously they've conveyed to us that they're comfortable with their price and they've included everything that is on the documents. So with that said, I wanted to give you a overview of where we are from a budget standpoint. So I'm going to share my screen briefly, and I think all of you probably have this print off in front of you as well as far as board members go. I'm getting some more message. Right? Can you see that? So, the most important place to start is the overall voter authorization. So again, several years ago, that was approved by voters in the district. It was a $15.3 million referendum. As you can see, phase 1 was approximately 7.6 million of that, and phase 2, which is wrapping up now, is we budgeted 303,000 essentially. We've added a few a few factors in there just to make sure that again, if any final costs come through before we get to final closeout, that we've allotted enough money for phase 2. That leaves approximately 7.3 million for phase 3, and as I said, we accepted bids. So here's a quick breakdown. We have prime contracts for site work, general construction, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. We're recommending tonight that we delay the award of site work, and I'll get into why we would recommend that right now. And again, it's just delay it by 1 month. But so tonight, I know later in your agenda, you'll have an opportunity to potentially award the remaining contracts, the GC, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So as you can see, the construction subtotal there is just over 6.4 million. Again, included in that is 350,000 in allowances. Allowances and/or construction contingencies, which is the next item on the list there, are both ways that we protect the district. They're ways that margin is built into the budget. We know we haven't found a project yet where there's not a discovered condition. And as hard as we work to create and provide perfect documents, perfect drawings, we know that it's not realistic. And so that allowance in particular is there to accommodate for any errors or omissions in our documents. Again, with the biggest goal here is to protect the district. The worst thing that could happen is if you overspend that referendum. And so we take extra steps and make recommendations to always protect that overall budget. Again, so 350 built into those contracts already. And again, if that money is not used, it's credited back to the district. I think we've had that discussion in the past on the previous 2 phases. The next line item is a construction contingency. Again, this is just additional money that we recommend the district set aside as a buffer. Again, we're just trying to build margin. So the 250 and the 350 essentially add up to approximately 9% of the construction subtotal. And historically, we've found, and we work with a lot of construction managers who also use that as a rule of thumb for a good amount of money to be set aside. Now, if you do the math there, you'll see that if we didn't have the next line item, the value engineering credits, we would technically be over where we ought to be. And so this goes back to where I said we ought to delay the award of the site work contract. We're working with the site work contractor to find a few specific items that we can delay and again, allowing a credit back to the district. So we strongly recommend this. Ultimately, it's your decision, but we would be very nervous going into the project with only the 350,000 in allowances. We feel like it'd be very wise for the district, again, to delay a few items. These items can be brought back at the end of the project if funds are available, and if not, they would be great candidates to carry over into your future project or a future project. So that 450 in value engineering, essentially the 4 larger things that we identified that bring us to that value are some underground electrical work, the natural gas generator, so replacing the generator you have now, and then site work. The specific site work would be the paving of the bus loop, and just the paving piece. We would still do the sidewalk that, the main entrance sidewalk that deals with the drain right now and the area around the brick wall. We know that that drain is settled and it's a tripping hazard. We would also do the immediate sidewalk that goes over to the elementary wing. The other piece of the site work that we would recommend holding right now is the tiered outdoor seating area that's outside the large food construction room. Again, all these items are, particularly the electrical underground work and the natural gas generator, items that you currently have. They were identified on a long-range plan as items that should be addressed at some point. The generator in particular was on the list because we are eventually moving away from fuel oil, but you're not to that point yet. And I understand your generator works fine, and you actually have very little use for it with how reliable your local electric service is. And then again, the site work, the bus loop, if there's some specific potholes within that paving, I'm sure we can address it, but those are some of the harder decisions that we work through with the district and with contractors to, again, just be able to provide a little more margin in the overall budget. So we accounted for 7% inflation in the budgets that we originally put together for the district. So 7% in 1 year is a significant amount, and it's double what we would historically would have accommodated for in probably the last 20 years. 3 to 3.5% has been very consistent. As you know, and you're experiencing in your own personal life, whether it's at the pump or trying to buy things at the store, inflation and supply chain shortages continue to impact the construction market. Labor shortages are still an impact as well. So we're getting feedback from contractors, particularly on the general construction side, that they're seeing 1 year inflation at rates up to 20%. So what that did is that obviously made it so that the ad alternates that we had included in case we were early enough in the market or things were changing where you could potentially buy more than what was originally included. We would not be recommending any ad alternates right now. They don't fit in the budget. And that's also the main factor that led to the budget being a little tighter than we were comfortable with. So again, just to remind you what some of those ad alternates were, we had some independent heat at the greenhouse, so it wasn't tied to the overall building system. There's a folding partition in the elementary wing, in I think it's the 3rd through 5th grade wing. There's one room with a partition. There's replacement of the casework, again, in the 3rd through 5th grade wing, which is something we added late in the process, but at least we have a number for it now. The window replacement, which I think we all knew was really never realistic for this project once we proceeded with the library work instead. And then finally, some glass block work at the gymnasium. So I will stop there and allow some time to answer any questions here if I wasn't clear with what I was presenting.
I have 2 at the moment. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Are you familiar with all of these contractors on the bid award schedule?
Yes, great question. Something I probably should have covered. Sorry about that. So yes, we're very familiar with several of them, and we're generally familiar with the rest. So general construction is Petrello Construction, who actually was the general contractor for the last big project in Hamilton in 07-08. We have Brantley's, who is the plumbing contractor, who was just on the last, or on phase 1 actually. King & King Mechanical, who I don't personally have a lot of experience with, but they are in the low bid construction market. We are familiar with them as an overall office. What also gave us a lot of confidence with their bid is that they were almost matched the bid price of Brantley's, and so we know Brantley's very well.
Okay.
Again, Brantley's bid both mechanical and plumbing. Lost mechanical by less than $1,000. Across almost $1 million contract. That's very tight.
Yeah.
And then they did win the plumbing. And electrical is SC Spencer, who was a very good electrical contractor from the phase 1 project. So we know everyone pretty well, and some of them really pursued this project because they really appreciated, Spencer in particular commented on how much they appreciated working in the district and with the administration. So it's great to get feedback like that from contractors.
And
They
just to
pursued the job really hard, and we got the best prices that they could provide. The final contractor is the site work contractor, and he's actually an excellent contractor. His name is Fred Burrows. And so we were excited that we were able to work with him. He was very accommodating in helping us work through some of these credits, and really was easy to negotiate with. If that process hadn't gone smooth, I would have come back to you tonight and said, we probably need to repackage and rebid the site contract. I'm glad to say we don't need to do that, and that we have a very good contractor on board, and we should do everything we can to keep him.
But the site one is next month, right?
Yes, that's correct. So next month
I didn't
we'll
wanna
do
get
that.
confused.
Again, that was just to give a little more time to
Yeah, I
work through
follow
that
all
whole
that.
negotiation process.
And just to get it out there, the HVAC contract, they have no ties to you. That's just a coincidence with their name.
Sorry, I
The
didn't
King and
quite catch
King
that.
Mechanical, that's just a coincidence.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I don't want
It should be
anyone
excellent, though.
to-
It should be excellent
Okay.
with that name.
So my last question is, I think you hit on this, but were any of the bids far below others that may have been cause for alarm? I think you've covered that, but.
Yeah, and so that's something we definitely look for, and we really challenge them when we see that. And so we didn't have any that were particularly low. I would say site work was a little bit lower than the rest, but he had some very good explanations why. He really wants, there's a series of projects directly in the Madison County, Shenango County area, and so he's really was looking at this as one of a series of projects in very close proximity where he would find efficiencies. And then the other one was Petrello Construction, and so we have vetted him pretty closely as to why he was, you know, a couple $100,000 lower than the rest. And so we're comfortable with his answers as well. So he was able, a big thing with Petrello is, unlike a lot of general contractors today, they actually self-perform a lot of their own work. So they have carpenters, masons, et cetera, on staff, which is surprising that most other general contractors are honestly contractors on paper only, and they subcontract everything these days. So with the way they've organized their company and doing more work in-house, they have lower margins, less overhead, and so that makes a lot of sense why their number would be lower.
And to avoid any confusion, you have to award it to the low bidder, correct?
That is correct, the lowest responsible bidder, and as long as they have bonding, New York State pretty much calls them responsible. But that's where, through that vetting process, if something did come up through that concerned us, we would definitely have conversations and get to a place that we were comfortable and felt like it was a winning scenario for the district before we would ever come to you in a public setting and say, you know,
Yep.
and make a award recommendation. So if we were very concerned, often at that point through that vetting process, contractors will, sort of the light bulb will go on, they'll realize there's a mistake and they'll withdraw their bid. At that time, we either go to the second bidder or we rebid if the gap is just more than the budget can stand. So there's
Very
always
good.
options.
Thank you and all your team for all the hard work you put in this.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else question? Everybody feel comfortable enough to move forward later without Paul on the screen? We're not gonna keep you on, but
Phone
so,
a friend.
any other questions we have later, we'll go to Matt.
Yep.
Okay. Great, well, we thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Great, well, thank you and have a great meeting.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
That guy seemed really solid. Answered the question.
Thank you, Matt, for
Sure.
having Paul invited virtually, saves him from driving. That brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is 3.1 through 4.2. I need a motion for the consent agenda. Approve the consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Discussion.
Is somebody gonna talk about 3.5?
Yep. The Hamilton School District Fiscal Stress Report. This is a report that's released annually by the Office of the State Comptroller, I believe for all municipal and governmental agencies in New York State. It's not just school districts. Several years ago, they developed this tool as a mechanism to sort of alert municipalities and governmental agencies, including school districts, to either existing or anticipated fiscal or environmental stress in the community. There's two components to it. There's the first page is strictly based on financials. So if you looked at the indicators and some of the metrics, they look at fund balances, they look at budgets, they look at reserves, and if they have certain triggers that in any of those categories, if you hit one of those triggers, you're assessed a point value, and then your total point value indicates the level of stress under this program. So if the most you can get is 100 points. Anything between 0 and 25, basically 25 and under, you are deemed to have no fiscal stress or no designation. We had 0 points for this cycle for fiscal stress here in Hampton. The second one is the environmental factors, and similarly, it has a handful of factors such as poverty measures, change in property values of your tax base, change in demographics, changes in faculty numbers, budget voting, I believe. And this is similar, 0 to 30 points total, you're deemed to have no stress. We did actually hit one of the triggers on this one, and it was specifically for teacher turnover, which as a small school district, if you have a year where you have a couple people leave and you have a few retirements, generally we have enough turnover that triggers this. So we did have 10 points towards 100 on this one, but it's still no designation of stress. We go through this each year, and I can confidently say that while we understand the intent behind this and how it's valuable at the state level, if there are serious concerns for this district regarding our finances or any environmental factors that we feel could be problematic, you're going to hear from Bill and I long before this report comes out. So while we understand how this can be helpful at the state level, and we certainly consider it every year that it comes out, we're in a good position, and we're very happy that, knock on wood, to date we've yet to really encounter anything eye-opening from these reports. So it's just an annual report that comes out, and it's pretty good news. So.
Well, and I'll follow up. Matt's being modest. This is a lot of hard work and excellent work by Matt in the financial situation that a lot of schools are in right now, and with our global economy, to have no indications of financial stress within the district, I think, is a testament to his hard work. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to know you have a stress-free job.
You can add a third page for that. That's a different report.
Wonderful, thank you. Anything else discussion-wise for that piece? Okay.
This went to 4.2.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that brings us to our special guest. The HCS Tech Club will be presenting. So if you'd like to, I don't know if you have anything on screen or whatever you need to do, let's take a look. We'll give you a minute to get settled.
What are you looking for?
Their videos.
They're in the folder on the desk.
I don't remember that already.
Okay, right here.
Yes, you're right, you did say that. And, yeah, let's put that break and then we'll get going. So my name is Astrid Helfand, and I joined Hamilton Central School a few years ago, as you all know, and I started with being asked if I could be an advisor to the Tech Club. And so that was about September, this September, 3 years ago. And the first year, we participated in what's called the Better Business Bureau Video Competition. And I think at that point we had a team that submitted one video, and I think back then we got second place. And so the next year, COVID of course hit, and we had to move it all online. And so we had our Wednesdays off, and I remember I was meeting with the team over lunch on Wednesday, and they would all join in Google Meet. And at that point, we had maybe 4 or 5 teams that joined, and we had 2 teams that won. We got first and I believe 3rd place. So word spreads around, so we're now in year 3, and it's now become not just one club, we now have 2 clubs, middle school and high school. And since we no longer have our Wednesdays, I had to split them over middle school lunch and high school lunch. And I'm very thankful that I've got 3 members here, Lily and Claire from the middle school and Craig from the high school. And so we have a whopping 9 videos that have been submitted. They're all listed up here, MS versus HS, and then the various teams. So a little bit more about the competition, and then I'll have my members take it over to pick their video that we'd like to share with you. So the Better Business Bureau is a nonprofit organization that basically gives a seal of approval to businesses, and since this competition in particular is for upstate New York, they are focusing on businesses in this area. The last few years, this competition started in upstate New York, and we had about 9 or 10 schools from the upstate New York region participate. This year, I don't know what happened. It's not because of lack of my advertising. I've been part of the New York State Master Teacher Program. I just graduated from that program. And during one of our huge meetings where at least 100 teachers attend, I gave a whole presentation about this in terms of STEM, the technology component of it, and shared it with all my colleagues across the whole state of New York. There are only 2 schools right now participating in this year's competition. They have not downgraded their prizes, which are magnificent if we were to receive any of them. So our school, Hamilton Central, submitted 9, and then there's one other school that has submitted 1 video. So since there are 3 prizes, a total of, I emailed it to Mr. Dowsland, $3,000, and that is just money for the school. That's not even talking about money that will go to the individual teams, and if a team is only 1 person, that means 1 person will get that money. If a team is 4 people, the max is 4, they split it by 4. So yeah, there's a lot to be gained, but it's not just about the money for the school or the money for the students, although I think it's a big carrot. They really enjoyed coming to my classroom every Friday. I just said, come every Friday over lunch, so it's kind of like an hour, half hour middle school, half hour high school. And we've been going with this since September, just for these 1-minute videos. Not that that's the only thing that the Tech Club has done. We've done other things, but today I just want to focus on BDB. So shall we start with middle school, Claire and Lily? Do you want to tell about your video and find it somewhere in here? I think I can find, do you see the future? Yeah, I see the future. Shall we first play it and then you want to explain, or do you want to do it the other way around?
Do you want to explain?
Stand up, stand up.
We made an animated video. Claire did the animation, and me and Sayla Nelson did the voiceover for the video.
And our video didn't really have a storyline. It was more of kind of explaining the concept of the BBB and kind of showcasing what the theme is and what it's celebrating, which is trust.
Yeah, so that was the key theme for this year, celebrate trust. it's been similar in previous years. I think it was, last year was, of course, trust during trying times. This year, hopefully, we'll be done with this pandemic soon, celebrating trust in that regard. Shall I click? Okay. That one?
Use the mouse. Oh, it's gonna
Use
go.
the mouse.
It's going.
Okay. Let's make that a little louder. Do I go
Yeah.
here? That's
Try the system volume.
this
Yeah, that's a
one?
good idea.
Yeah, pump that up.
And then I want to make
Yeah.
this a little bigger.
Use the yep, here you go.
No,
Can you start
and
it?
I'm going to start it
Yeah.
again. Okay. It's a very sensitive mouse.
For years, people have been scammed, cheated, and burdened with the backwater, and lost of hard-earned money, but not anymore. Once people started using the Better Business Bureau, their lives changed, and yours can too.
One day at Genius Day, Merle Snyder put together a program or board containing 90% of employees with business backgrounds.
This board, established in 1912, has helped millions achieve their needs and wants without draining their bank account. You can access the BBB website by just typing up bbb.org. You can type in what you want and find reliable and safe websites to use. Make sure that you are putting your trust in the right people.
The Better Business Bureau is a private, non-profit organization whose self-described mission is to focus on advancing marketplace trust. We're not here to try to sell to you. We're here to celebrate.
Celebrate trust and reliability. Use the Better Business Bureau. Start with trust.
Better Business Bureau, celebrating trust.
So, yeah. So if you wanted to vote for this particular video, I posted a link on the middle school, high school site, but I don't know if we can go to the link now, or if that's not appropriate. You gotta let me know.
I think it's shared in the agenda too.
Is it?
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. But you're going to see 10 videos, and this is one of them. Yeah. So let's see if I can get on this one.
No, but you can send it to us tomorrow.
Hit the minimize.
Minimize?
Yeah, minimize on the right lower.
This
Here.
one?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Bulletin. Then just close the
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now open
Okay.
whichever one you want to see next.
Craig, you're next. Come on up.
Alright, so I similarly did an animated video and I made it on my computer. And like them, it's for the BBB competition, so hope you guys like it.
All right. Short and sweet. Must be this one.
Many years ago, in the days of yore, there was a brave king. I love my people, and they love me. One day, the king went riding on his noble steed. Along the way, he fell off his horse. Ow! The king asked his council for information on the cause of his fall, for he knew he was the best rider in the kingdom. The council informed the king that he had bought a faulty saddle from an untrustworthy business, and it had unbuckled from beneath him. I hate scammers, but I thought their damage stopped at telemarketing. Treachery like this will not be tolerated in my kingdom. Henceforth, we shall establish a system for checking the credibility of all vendors in our fair land. We will call it the Better Business Bureau. Almost 110 years later, the Better Business Bureau is still building trust between customers and vendors. Nowadays, you can be confident that you're not being taken advantage of when looking for a service, simply by going to www.bbb.org and typing in your location and the type of business you are interested in. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Everyone at the BBB is thrilled with the trust that they have formed between themselves and those that rely on their service. Thank you, BBB.
So I want to ask for your patience because I want to show two more. One, because you have a sister, right? And she also submitted one with her team. Lily, are you able to say a little bit something what Abby did? Do you remember? While I go find it?
Yes.
Go for it.
The members in my sister's team, so it's Abigail Hagos, Amelia Markavicius, Shansei, and
Emma Crespi?
and Emma Crespi. And they did a live action video with a background similar to animation, like they drew pictures and they put in background with a green screen. I hope you enjoy.
Once upon a time, Goldilocks was very hungry. She decided to go to the market to buy an apple. The first seller scanned her and gave her a pear instead of an apple. Goldilocks refused because he wasn't BBB accredited. The second seller tried to sell her a tech company instead of an apple. Once again, Goldilocks refused. When she got to the third seller, he offered an apple from his BBB accredited business. Today, people associated with the BBB, from sellers to buyers, celebrate trust. A BBB accredited business has a good track record dealing with disputes, is transparent about its product or service, and advertises honestly. As a customer, you can leave reviews of businesses, report scams, and even receive help to resolve any problems you might have with the provider of a product or service. For more information, go to the BBB website at bbb.org. Better Business Bureau, celebrating trust.
And the last one I want to show you, even though she's not here right now, but I think it's a very good contender. Can you guess whose I want to show?
Sophia.
Yeah, do you want to show Sophia? She actually won with her team the third prize last year. I'm trying to remember who her team members were. It was probably Sarah Klingerman and Lily. The three of you?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the last one. So bear with me one more minute. Okay, so Sophia. Middle school?
Keep going right there.
Yes, right there.
Since 1912, the Better Business Bureau has prided itself on ensuring trust through our different businesses and charities. With all the businesses to choose from, it's hard to know which ones you can trust. And it's certainly not fun to find out the hard way. This is where the Better Business Bureau can help. With almost 400,000 accredited businesses, you can see which businesses are trustworthy by looking at our expert ratings and reviews left by customers. To see if a business is trustworthy, just go to bbb.org and check to see if the business is approved with the BBB accreditation seal. As long as you see that seal, you know that the business is trustworthy. So whether you need a new uniform for that soccer game or if you're looking for a place to buy a violin, the BBB is here for you, and we will be for years to come. Every new year that the BBB is here to help you is a new year that we can celebrate our tradition of trust. BBB, start with trust.
So the voting continues until Sunday night, what's that, February 13, midnight, and then they're going to evaluate, not just based on votes, but also some other features about the video, and we will hear about the winners the Monday after our February break. So let's keep our fingers crossed. But, you know.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Next up is a teacher presentation, but I do want to say that if the three of you would like, you are more than welcome to leave. You're welcome to stay at our meeting, but we don't want you to feel like you need to. We do appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Oh, wait.
Astrid, I didn't mean to kick them out for your presentation.
That's okay.
Still a presentation. Sorry, everyone. Wheel you around again.
Astrid, do you know, while you're setting that up, do you know how many times you can vote, or?
Well, if you want to hear the story, so last year and the year before, one of the schools, Mount Hamilton, 2 years ago, had set up a bot, and my kids, Sky and Aiden, noticed that, and I had to email the woman at the BBB, and I said something is going wrong with the voting, because you could see it just ticks up, and then it's like 500 and 1,000. It's very regular, and you saw it was a robot. So that then stopped. Then last year it happened again. A bot was put in place, and so she sent a warning email out. I think that's not the case this year, although I haven't, I'll confess, since my own kids are now in the competition, I haven't watched the site on a daily or hourly basis, but I think it looks more legit. But there were votes a couple of years ago in the thousands, and it was just like the next morning you'd wake up, boom, there was another 2,000 votes. So I'm hoping that that part is done, but you know, that's why voting only, that's why I have this piece of paper here, because she emailed me
the woman at the BBB exactly how they evaluate videos, because I was concerned if it was mostly based on votes. But there's judges that are basically part of businesses, and they look at, does each video abide by the contest rules, the production quality, the creativity of the message, and the representation of the theme. And each of those 4, they get 10 points, so that's a max of 40. And then the votes themselves, if there's 10 videos, they just get 1, 2, 3, up through 10 points in terms of their voting ranking. And then the max video would be 50 points, and that would be the winner. So, yeah, so should be interesting. Yeah. So I wasn't entirely sure what I needed to do for the Hamilton Emerald Foundation in terms of what you wanted to hear. So I kind of guessed here, meaning I put some pictures together from, actually several of these pictures are pre-COVID. I can't believe I'm seeing faces up on the screen. But I'm showing you how generous the Hamilton Emerald Foundation has been since I've gotten here. And since I've worked before this for so many years at Oneida, almost 15 years, and I know how long it took me to get all the materials that I had there. It took 1 to 2 years coming to Hamilton because of the generosity of the Hamilton Emerald Foundation. So, and that's really nice because then you can do so many great things in the classroom. So in this particular picture, you're seeing several of my, back then, 8th grade students. I was teaching in Mr. Arquette's room, biology, and so you see a couple of neat instruments. Right here is an incubator that I tend to use sometimes maybe for bacterial growth or to heat things up that I need at a specific temperature. Evan is holding, I think, a test tube in front of a vortexer, which helps you stir the content of the tube very well. And then Annabelle here is standing in front of a little mini centrifuge, so you can spin things, and you can separate them based on density. There's another device that's hard to see. It's another water bath, so you can do enzymatic reactions that need to be done for AP Bio at exactly, I don't know, 42 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Celsius, and so you can incubate them in that bath. Another thing that I've received from the BBB is a light system, a growing light system, and I know that Joanna Boston, of course, has this amazing greenhouse, but I'm like 5 miles away from her classroom on the other side of the building. And so I basically needed to have my own small little greenhouse set up so that I can grow with my AP Bio students these Wisconsin fast plants. And I've actually used, when I was teaching regular bio, I've used that same light setup to grow with Wisconsin fast plants with them. You can not only grow the plants themselves, you can also do different tests for germination in little petri plates, and that's where that light system came in handy. This is a picture also from a few years ago. Do you see yourself, Mr. Dowse? All the way in the back.
That is me.
Yep, all without masks because this was 2019. And all my AP Bio students are holding these digital thermometers, which are great for precise temperature taking and better than the alcohol and definitely better than the mercury thermometers. This, I wish I had a better picture. This is basically a snip from a video. I'm not playing this video, but one thing that the Tech Club did, but it's related to the Hamilton Emerald Foundation in a sec, is we took these videos of all the teachers. I don't know if you remember this. We went into all the classrooms, the students did, and then they did little interviews because we couldn't really have a parent night where they would come in. And Coy is interviewing me here, but the reason I took this picture and put it in the slide is because this is Miss Haskins' old room, and there used to be chalkboards and poster boards, and Marianne and Barb and I, we had written a grant so that we could replace those chalk and poster boards with magnetic whiteboards, and it's been fantastic. This whiteboard, magnetic, to the left of that Promethean board has really helped my teaching. I'm constantly either putting magnets on there or writing or whatever, and I like that better than the chalk. And then the last one, but not least, obviously you recognize these two, Sky and Hayden. This has been, yeah. So what happened here is you're seeing here the spectrophotometer. You might have heard that difficult word in the board meeting before when it got awarded. This particular one comes from Colgate, and I took a picture of them with that one from Colgate because the Hamilton Emerald Foundation had then awarded the funds to buy something like that. So I bought the machine, and it's basically a very long story that I'm going to make very short. It didn't pan out very well. The machine was shipped. It didn't come in a functional working order, and they sent me a new bulb, and I had to send it back. They said there's nothing wrong with the machine, and then I even had Randy Friedman come in and test the plugs, and we went to a different location with the machine, and it truly was not working. So I sent it back to the company, Thermo Fisher, and I just spoke with Carolina Biological, the company that supplies this spectrophotometer, and we're waiting now to get the check back, a refund basically. And I would really like to use that refund for something like this extra in my room that I've applied for a grant for, but because I'm getting that refund, there's a lot less money that I would need to do that. So although I was awarded this by the Hamilton Emerald Foundation, it's not currently in my classroom anymore. We currently still have Colgate's machine, so. Are there any questions you have about things that have been funded to me from the Hamilton Emerald Foundation? Anything else that you're wanting to know?
Have a lot, I'm sure the answer to this is yes, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Have a lot of these tools and gadgets helped spur the interest of your students when otherwise maybe they wouldn't have been so interested in the subject?
Yes, I think they just every day, they go into the back of my classroom, especially Nick, who looks a lot taller now than he's in that picture. And they're touching the vortexer. They're playing with, which I did not show you, this new hot plate that I got a couple of years ago, and it has a magnetic stir capacity. They just love, if you leave the tools out and you just let them play with it, they'll play with it, you know? Obviously in the summer, I put this all back in the cabinets and it's all clear, but if you leave it out, they'll use it even though you might not use it every time you do a lab. So I think it's great, yeah. It's been very helpful.
And to kind of add to that, Travis, not only just, you know, the excitement they have to use them in the class, but the knowledge of being able to use those tools as they move on is really important for those students, especially if they want to go into the sciences. Having some experience with those devices really helps them out.
Open their eyes to fields that might be available to them.
Yep.
That's great.
That's been great, yeah.
Sorry about your spectrometer.
Well, the Colgate one is worth $5,600. The one that I purchased was, I think, $2,800. They're the same machine, different, same brand, different variation, and the Colgate one just works better. The other one never worked, so that's, you know, but at that price, you should at least get it to work.
Well, your students learned a valuable lesson with that too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You've seen me haul that box around, and yeah.
So was the company approved by the Better Business?
Yeah, you can report it now.
That's the best evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as with the students, you are more than welcome to stay. But if you have dinner or something better to get to.
Thank you.
I think
We
we
go home.
But we thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
I don't think we dismissed you.
Good news is I can go. Good night.
before you sit down, can you pull that up and see if there's any comments?
I have it over here. There's
We're
nothing.
good? Okay, great. So at this time, our public participants left the room, and there's nothing online, so we're going to skip over that part for now. But if you're online and you have something, please write in, and we'll catch you on the next one. That brings us to personnel. I need a motion to accept the resignation for retirement purposes of Elizabeth Marcellus, effective June 30th, 2020, as recommended by the superintendent, with sincere appreciation for her 20 years of service rendered to the district.
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm going to discuss, because it's June 30th of 2022, not, you said 2020, but it's
Oh.
June 30th of 2022.
I'm having
so
issues tonight, apparently.
So-
2022, sorry.
I just wanted to clarify.
Was he hard to retire in the past?
You know, it could cause trouble.
It
Thank
could.
you for that. All those in favor? Enjoy your retirement when you get to it.
Thank you for hanging out the couple extra years. Some really tough years.
All right. Let's see if I get this right. A motion to approve the promotion of Linda O'Keefe as probationary office assistant 2 to fill the vacancy of Caprice. Retirement effective April 1st, 2022, as recommended by the director of PPS and the superintendent.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A motion to approve the spring coaches. I'm just looking for them. The following spring coaches for 2021-2022 school year contingent upon significant participants and COVID-19 status as recommended by the athletic director and superintendent. Discussion? That includes softball, baseball, tennis, track, golf, and some unpaid coaches for those areas.
Do we anticipate all these sports being filled this year?
Yes.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the recommendations on the committees of special education and preschool special education.
I'll second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a first read, so this is discussion for policies 2045, 4510, 4520, and 4530. Travis, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, so the executive session, a few minor changes, I can elaborate if you have any questions. The three financial policies, first is part of the comptroller report, is that right, Matt?
Yep, our comptroller audit from 2020.
These were in our action plan, I believe.
Yep.
So the big change is some of the dollar allowances were out of date. Since our current policies were made, there's been changes in law that were included in a few of these. There's a piggybacking section, basically getting us up to where we need to be.
Great.
Yeah, I think all the changes in all these are just getting us up to date, including the executive session.
Yeah.
It's really just putting it in line with what the law is anyway. We didn't have on there what we just went on with the CSE.
There is, let me find it real quick, the executive session. We added, I don't think it was in the original.
Yeah, the Committee on Special Education.
That too, but section 2, the board may invite staff and other persons to attend all or part of executive sessions when their presence is deemed necessary. It's been a while here. I don't think I've currently. No, it don't. And that's kind of an important thing to have.
Wonderful. Anybody have questions on those before they go back to school? All right.
And thank you to Matt too for going through all those financial policies and making sure that everything was jiving, which he gave his approval. I saw you video approval, so it's in writing.
I couldn't figure out whose that was. I should have figured that out. I did see it there.
Look, it's an MC. It'll look real careful.
I saw the okay up there.
I saw the okay.
Sorry, it's gotten a little rough over the years.
Bad.
That brings us to a discussion for the board goals review. Now, there's a difference between the district goals and our goals as board members on the board. So the discussion is about our board goals, which we didn't have for a very long time. Now we do, and almost forgot about them, so thank you, Travis. But it's time to just kind of run through them and see where we're at as mid-year. So thoughts and go from there. If nothing else, it's time to
These
just
are
review
this
them.
year, these are this year's goals, right? Because we are the topic.
It is.
It is.
It is, okay, never mind. I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
Strike that.
But to answer your question, yes.
Yes, they are this year's.
They are.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So where are we at? Do we still want some kind of a workshop presented to us?
I think that's the only one we haven't made any progress on, right?
Yeah. Now, Ellen, I think you wanted something on ESSA?
Yeah.
Do you want me to set that up? I can have a representative from the RIC present our ESSA report card to you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
It would be good.
The second goal, I think, is kind of an individual thing.
Right, and I think we've done that, we're working on that.
And we're all doing the book review.
Yeah.
Right.
Together.
Do you want the ESSA as a workshop or a part of a board meeting presentation?
I'd say part of the presentation. You guys, or do you want to have the
If we can
opportunity
do
to-
it in a brief enough span to not make a board meeting extensive, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Because then it
Yeah, I
doesn't,
think it depends on how long they want it.
Okay.
yeah.
What do you, when you say that, do you have like a time frame in your mind that says that's too long?
I would say over 20 minutes.
Yeah, I
was
think
gonna
that's
say
reasonable.
15, 20 minutes.
I think that's,
Like 15 with questions.
yeah.
Okay.
If they can't do that, then we should have a separate workshop.
And then, thanks Jen, she's really carrying us on number 3.
Trying.
And is great about telling us when we really need to get our act together with all the emails that we get.
Sorry.
Like, no, with the other day, which is actually great because we get so many emails from NISBA and everywhere else. You read them and you're like, okay, I understand what's in the email, or do I
Right.
need to do more? And then when we get it from Jen, we know we need to do it. So they were very helpful, and I made sure I did it right away because of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
I do have a question with that. At one meeting earlier this year, we talked about how our district could benefit from the capital outlay dollar limits being increased. Is that something we wish to try to find a way to advocate for, or?
I think it'd be helpful.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree
know-
with you.
Matt, I don't know if you're hearing
Well-
anything at the,
Well, yeah, two parts of it. I mean, it certainly would be beneficial to us. The lower threshold as it is that hasn't increased, it's not lucrative to us because our building aid ratio is not high enough. When you factor in incidental costs and all the soft costs, you just can't get anything done. That is, as far as how to advocate, that's going to be the challenge. I mean, that is one of those things that districts just keep pounding it every year. Similar to they finally made some increases to the threshold for retirees' earnings for the retirement system. So that's something that's advocated for pretty heavily on an annual basis as is. So yes, it's something we certainly would want to advocate for. How to do that in addition to what's already being done, and that's something we have to get on and get creative with. It's definitely something that we would benefit from.
So I'll jump ahead just a little bit with the advocacy update. So that was something I was going to mention. So NISBA is in the process right now of doing their resolutions process, which it would definitely be helpful for us to present that to them, because then we have like their backing to also help us advocate for that. So I think that's something, Matt, if you'd be willing to like work with us to try to put that together properly, and we can submit that.
Yeah, and I was just on the phone with a NISBA representative the other day. We had a half-hour meeting. And again, they want to hear what we want them to advocate for us for, and they're there for us. So I think that's a way we can work on that.
Also, you helped us draft a letter. I don't see why it wouldn't be bad for our board to send a letter to our senator.
Yeah,
and really all of these groups, you talk about NISBA, but also ASBO, which is school business officials, state aid planning out of Questar BOCES, NISCUS, which is the council superintendents. The more groups that it's going to be coming from, I think the more impactful it will be. But yes, definitely.
So I brought that up because, you know, that goal 3A, learn what is important to our district and then work with it. And I think that could be something that could really benefit us. If we can make a change, that's great. I'm sure squeaky wheel gets the oil, and we can be part of the squeak.
I know it's a short turnaround, but if we could have that letter, we have lobby days coming up in early March in Albany with the NISCUS. So it'd be helpful to have that I could take.
Today was NISBA's, so, and I was in on a few of those, so a little late for that, but yeah, I agree, let's get it sooner than later.
Would it be too much to ask you, Matt, to draft a letter that outline that, and then we can review and sound?
Not at all.
And as soon as it's final, I'll also share it with the person I was on with from NISBA, and just start it in that path as well. So we'll kind of see this to NISBA in a couple different ways, but.
So we just sent a copy to regional mayor's office.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll
Good.
letterhead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
Yep.
Agreed.
Well, thank you again, Travis, for remembering.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
I
no.
was worried of that other mid-year thing.
Now, this is where, you know, whatever you guys decide, but on the website tab, should these goals be there or in addition to, or?
These are our goals. I don't think they need to be. The district goals should be there. But
Yeah, but what does it say under the link? Here's where,
But
we don't have to discuss it now, but, you know,
I think these are our goals,
yeah.
and they don't need to be there.
What I'm saying is on the website, if the link, I can't remember, but if it says Board of Education goals, but district goals are under that tab, somebody might be like, these are our goals, we're the Board of, if it's under our link, maybe they should be there.
District and BOE goals.
Yeah.
So we can change that or whatnot, but.
I mean, we could add these.
Yeah.
I think here, I think it needs to be.
I guess what I'm saying is, are these goals on the witebsite anywhere? I think it'd be nice if they were.
And we can put them there.
Sounds good.
Anything else on the goal?
We should make mortgage bills.
Done.
Mark that on the to-do list, Chris.
That brings us to 6.5. I need a motion to approve the following capital project bid awards as recommended by King and King and the superintendent.
Did somebody move?
Yep, I need a second.
I'll second.
We had discussion before, do we have other discussion now?
No, other than thank you again for.
And we don't need to state anything here that we're gonna hold off on the site work or anything, right?
No, it's not on the list, that's what
I was just double checking all that too, okay.
I believe in the bid specs, trying to do the math in my head. No, it's 60 days, maybe 45 days from the bid being open. That's how much time you have to award the bids. So as long as that contract is awarded at the March meeting, we're within that timeline.
Great.
If it wasn't going to be awarded in March, then we'd have to go a different route.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Excuse me, who moved that? I didn't hear.
Jen?
Thank you. Yeah, that's right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Administrator's report. Let's start with that.
Mixing it up.
Do you-
Going the other way today.
Do you mind if I
Yes.
do my budget update just while I'm up here? Because I only have one other brief thing really to update you on.
Good.
I wanted to just provide an update. I know in a couple of our past meetings, there's been questions about digital speed limit signs and radar readers on Kendrick Ave. We have made a little progress. I have been in touch with the village. The village has already ordered several signs that they are going to install entering the village from the different main thoroughfares into the village. But they have provided me with specifics on the vendor that they used. I now have an idea of cost. So we're making progress. And it's definitely something that I believe they will support, because our intention is to have them installed on Kendrick Ave, which is a village street, not on the district property. So I believe it's going to be probably $2,500 to $3,000 a unit. So ideally, we'd like to get one of those on each side of Kendrick as you approach the school campus. So we are making progress there. So just want to leave that.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, budget, really the first order of business, we have our first round of budget coffees. Ideally, we usually do that on or around March 1st to coincide with the submission of our tax cap calculation for the year. Bill and I were looking at Monday and Tuesday. It's the 28th of February is Monday, and then Tuesday is March 1st. Typically what we do for those is we do one in the morning, and then we do one in the evening. I guess the first question, certainly we would like you folks to be present if you'd like to be. I guess the first question is, do you want to have those in person or do you want to have them remotely? And then secondly, if we can kind of hone in on those 2 days, what day or days works if we still want to do one in the morning, one in the evening. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
I think it'd be nice if you could do it in person, but I mean, I'm understanding.
Yeah, I think it's generally in the past, I mean, last year was an exception, but typically for these, when we are able to do them sort of informally and let people just pull up a chair, and it's more of a, I think, welcoming setting, and people are more comfortable to talk about some things, so we can do that. Any preference on those dates?
I would prefer no morning on Tuesday,
Okay.
unless it's after 10:30. No, unless it's after 11:30, so that's no morning, I guess.
No morning on Tuesday?
Yeah, because I have a 10:30 to 11:30 then.
Okay. So how about Monday the 28th in the morning and in the evening? We do them on the same day.
I'll definitely come in the evening, I can do
Yeah,
your
the
day.
evening, I try
Okay.
I can make the morning work on Monday, Tuesday's harder.
to. What do you say we're shooting for Monday, the 28th?
Monday the 28th, 9 a.m. and what time in the evening?
After 5:30?
After
Six?
dinner, let's do
6 o'clock?
6 or 7, 6, I mean, you have to be here, 6:30. So people can eat.
6:30?
6 o'clock.
6? Yeah, 6 o'clock, okay. So we will do Monday the 28th, 9 a.m. and 6 p.m.
I think 6:30 might be.
6:30.
6:30. Going once.
That's all right.
What was that? 6:30?
Is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Yep.
all right, so we'll do that on the 28th.
Bill, you and I talked quick about.
Yeah, Matt's gonna talk about those.
Never
Yeah,
mind.
so yeah, I think I know what you're
Okay.
alluding to.
Yep.
Throughout the budget process, as we move forward and as we start to hone in on a final budget, Bill and I know Michelle has expressed her interest in this, and it's certainly something that we'll oblige with, is really kind of taking the show on the road like we used to, and presenting at Rotary clubs, the different churches in the community, fire halls, Madison Lane, if needed, anybody that wants us to come and talk about the budget leading up to the vote, we're happy to do that. And that's something that as long as people want to have us and you're comfortable with us doing that, we intend to do that again this spring, so.
I think even if it's just 2 times doing that with two different things, where one might be like a Rotary and then one more public. You know, if you did one of each, that would be great. If you do more, great too. But
Sure.
I think one of each would be great.
And really, if anybody, we can certainly do that by request. If there's somebody that would like us to come, we can certainly do that. So we have every intention of doing that.
Thank you.
Just quickly, with regard to the budget, and then really with the upcoming coffee, we'll kind of dive into this more, but I just want to give you an update on sort of what we know at this point in the broad scope of what we're looking at for next year. First, with the tax cap, March 1st, we have to submit our final calculation of the tax cap. I've been working with fiscal advisors, we're looking at debt service schedules. We're finally getting the information that we need from the state and from the Office of Real Property, and it's looking like our allowable increase will be just under 3%. So right now it's showing 2.96% on my spreadsheet. That might go up 1/100% or so just based on finalizing the numbers. So that's really right where we expect to be. The base number for all districts here is 2%. If you remember that it's the old 2% tax cut, it's the lower of 2% or the statewide CPI. The CPI this year is, I think, over 4. So basically, the rate of inflation. So we're starting at 2. We have very little property tax base growth, 0.0054. And then that additional increase that's allowable is because of the new debt service for the capital project. So if you remember, going back 3 to 5 years ago, that was the plan, was with this project, we would have 3 or 4 years where we had an additional 1% on the levy in those years. So, roughly, I don't know, probably 0.75% of that 2.96 is specifically because of the new local share of the debt service related to this capital project. So it's right where we sort of expect it to be. Just to give you some perspective, because I'm going to talk about a few general dollar amounts, that 2.96% on our tax levy is approximately $225,000 of additional revenue on this year's budget. The executive budget proposal, I listened to a lengthy webinar yesterday, and I was surprised. There seems to be some real optimism on the foundation aid proposal that this is going to go through. I think last month I was maybe a little more skeptical, and I said, yes, it's showing a 3% increase for us, but a lot can change. There seems to be more optimism now that that's going to happen. That's the good news, and for us, that's roughly $100,000, the increase in foundation aid, which is great. So you can see, 3% in foundation aid, 3% in tax levy. You see that's not kind of a 2-to-1 ratio, which is really what we expect, because when you look at our budget, it's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio of what funds our budget. It's about 2/3 taxpayer funded and 1/3 state. So it's in line with roughly 3% in each of those. That's the good news. The more long-term concerning part is the fact that it's only 1 year. So there's this real commitment to make districts whole with foundation aid. And really, they're going to be able to do this year because of what's happened with the economy relative to last year. It's sort of a 1-year bounce back. The tax revenues are up, and some new income tax laws, or what you call them, where people are being taxed differently that are really going to help the state budget. So beyond that, we're not real sure, but certainly a 3% increase in foundation aid is more than we've seen in a long, long time. So that's good news on the revenue side. It's good news because we're going to need every nickel of it. And then here's the broken record part. Early indications when we start looking at expenditures, it's the same old story. It's the items that make up the majority of our budget continue to go up by the highest percent increases. So Health insurance, again, is going to be a big cost driver. Our roughly $14 million budget, our health insurance line item now, as far as district contributions, health insurance will hit $3 million this year. So we're projecting a 6% increase in premium with our health consortium. That has not been finalized yet, but in all likelihood it'll be around 6%. So we anticipate a budget impact of $150,000 to $180,000 increase just in that one line item. So you can see those two, 325 that I talked about on the revenue side. Probably half of that's going to be eaten up just with health insurance. Obviously, our contractual wage increases is probably another $150,000 to $180,000. Fuel, it's not. Thank goodness we're not burning fuel oil anymore. We still use it to heat the bus garage, but diesel fuel and fuel for our transportation vehicles. We do a cooperative bid with BOCES, and we lock in a fuel price for the whole year. We're going through that process right now. We just got prices, and it's probably 40% plus increase on this current year's bid. So, it amounts to maybe $20,000, $25,000, but as a percentage, it's going to stick out as a significant increase. And that shouldn't come as a big surprise. And then the last thing, and really with the team here, probably starting as soon as next week, we're going to really dive into programming, staffing, student placement. I know Kevin's probably going to talk about annual reviews being ongoing right now and looking at student placements for special ed next year. As you know, has a huge impact on the budget. BOCES CTE, we're going to see another big increase in what we pay there because we have more kids taking classes at BOCES. So those are all, and really we had a couple years, those 2 years where we had those real small graduating classes, where we were in the 20s. The BOCES CTE is based on a 3-year moving average. So those years are being removed from that calculation, and now we have more kids taking classes. So it's just the nature of that calculation. So again, we'll get into it more at the coffees. We'll talk about some of those things in more detail. But it's kind of the way it always is at the February board meeting. It's it looks daunting. Now is when we go to work. Fortunately, we do have the CRSA, the ARP, the CARES Act. We have those federal coronavirus relief funds that at our disposal for the next 2.5 years, and we're going to have to be creative and move things around to keep things intact and keep doing what we do. So we'll get there. Any questions, budget-wise in general?
Yeah. Sorry. So in some of these meetings that I've been in the Capital Conference, there is a huge push on updating the formula for foundation aid, and it really looks like that may be happening, or much more on the front burner. How is that going to affect us?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, there continues to be a shift or an increase in the number of districts that are either fully or overfunded. So we've been quote unquote overfunded based on the current formula for a number of years. I believe it's closer to like 40% are overfunded now, 60 or not. It used to be kind of 2 to 1, now it's kind of 60-40. What will be important for districts, and I think will have to be a consideration, and districts like us will have to advocate for, is some sort of hold harmless, with current aid levels, and then looking at the formula moving forward. And that's where like this 3% increase for next year is a baseline. So everybody's getting at least 3%. Those that are underfunded, so when I say underfunded, meaning that they're not getting as much aid as the current formula says that they should be. And really what it comes down to is it's so much dependent on pupil counts that districts that have had increasing enrollment, which is a lot of more urban areas, they don't have as much aid as they say they should, or they've gotten significantly poorer, but usually 1 or 2 things. districts like us have gotten wealthier or have had a declining enrollment and more. So I think the key, I'll be honest with you, I don't, as far as what formulas are being considered, how it's going to be done, I'm not sure anybody really knows. But the key is going to be sort of establishing that new baseline, right? So making, not necessarily starting with where the formula was in 2007 or whenever it was, but making
That is
sure.
over 20 years old.
Yeah, yeah. So even longer than that. So yeah, I don't have a specific answer for that.
We actually had a call with Senator May's office to discuss foundation aid and what that means for our district and how we can lobby to hold harmless. So,
So I've also seen some proposals for things like, every district having or every school building having a social worker. And I know often those things are put out, they pass a law that says that without funding it. And it wasn't clear to me if this would be something like that was proposed to be funded. Do you have a sense of if there's anything like that we're worried about, another unfunded mandate that we have to put in place? I mean, as much as I want a social worker, we need to.
Yeah, from a funding standpoint, I've not heard anything. But I can tell you that position specifically is one that 4 years and every year moving forward is one that we discuss at length, and you see a lot of heads nodding over there.
But that's the thing, is we want one, and we don't.
Yeah.
It's the money that's stopping us. If they tell us now you have to have one,
Yeah.
it's not like they changed the.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of that. There are some, there are a lot of little caveats that often show up in these budget bills. What ends up going through. The other big one, I don't mean to shift gears, but it's kind of sort of a similar sense. I don't know if you saw it with buses being no emissions by 2035. And I think no more purchase or no zero emission buses purchases would be, I think, by 2027, and your whole fleet would have to be turned over by 35. I actually had a presentation. I looked into an electric bus. They're like $400,000, and plus all the infrastructure you have to have. So, those are very similar sense. They're very lofty. They often pop up in these budget bills, but just how they're going to transpire, to what extent it's going to be mandated, to what extent there's going to be funding associated with those is often tougher to pinpoint.
So there's nothing that you think is pressing that we're like, we gotta squirrel some money away to pay for this?
No. I don't know, Bill. I can't think of any positions or titles of employees or certain faculty members that are mandated to have such as that. The most recent thing that came to mind was the resource officer. There was funding available, but it certainly wasn't required. Yep.
So Matt, for the last 2 years about this time, you've talked about some concerning talk relating to how districts can utilize BOCES. Was some of that chatter gone away? Weren't you saying that, like, it was in the governor's kind of like proposed budget?
Oh, okay, yes.
You know where I'm going here?
Yeah. So Governor Cuomo in recent years had proposed basically eliminating expense-based aids.
Right.
So as it currently is and has been for a long time, there's certain expense-based aids like transportation, BOCES, excess costs for special needs students would be eliminated. Kind of wipe the slate clean. They would somehow be indexed, and then there would be an increase on a year-to-year basis. That is not included in this current executive proposal. So that is looking like that's not even being considered for next year, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because that's something districts really depend on from a budgeting standpoint. And frankly, it's a reason why they take advantage of certain services to drive the aid. Yeah.
And actually, I think it's just the opposite now, so it's another thing that I noted, there's a huge effort to actually increase that now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, which is good, it's the opposite effect.
The COVID relief funds, it looks like that money's still there, they're not going to give it to us.
All of our budgets have been approved.
Okay,
Yep. Yep.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
A couple other things in regards to budget. Board of Education candidates, petitions are available on our website. When submitting, please include a brief biography of yourself and a picture. March 18th is the deadline for submission of petitions to be placed on the ballot. On March 26th, how to become a school board member candidate, what you need to know. If anybody's interested in becoming a board member and registering, please contact Debbie Curley in district clerk in the district office.
And there are 2 seats up this year.
There are 2 seats, correct.
And to be public and open, one is not planning to rerun.
What? You're not this year?
Because I'm not this year or next year. Oh my
You're not
God!
No.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
You got one more year, girl.
Yeah.
Is it not 2023? Okay, no, I'm good. Okay, sorry, never mind.
You get your calendar.
How is that? We
You
do.
got time to
How
change
did
it.
you that?
Just a 1-year calendar, not even a month.
Shannon and I are up this
Never
year.
mind, erase that.
You
Just
have it
rewind the video.
and you're up there next year.
I'm not gonna run next year.
No, you said you're not running this year.
That's
You said
right.
okay.
I'm not running this year, so.
So you're good?
I'm not running this year. I don't have to turn in a petition this year. I'm good.
You are good.
Oh
You're good.
my.
You got another year in you?
You're really done.
I know Michelle's in 2020, you're in 2023.
I'm sorry. Okay, bring it back.
All right.
Keep moving.
Heather.
I'm just going to highlight a few of the pieces from the report as I sat down to do it. I realized it's been a busy month, so February has. One of the things that I started this last month off with was just meeting with, or in January actually when we came back, meeting with grade levels to take a look at where we are mid-year. So that was, although it's probably the shortest section, it was probably one of the most important things that I did. And just like really evaluating a whole host of different things from curriculum to classes and some specific little details that we were able to iron out and some bigger ideas for the following year. So another piece is the career development. So the counseling department is, as we speak this month, working with the media classes to implement the career exploration, and that's been really, really neat. So we've actually been able to look at like individual students, but also the counselor and I have talked a little bit about the global results of it, and it's kind of surprising to us like what areas students are really interested in. So that's been really great, and then also there's going to be a collaboration with the art department to take a look at all of our interests, and she's going to put together a display in the hallway. So HCS Reads is coming up, one of my absolute favorite things. So we have the surprise book, which I kept telling myself, do not say the name of the book. But it's going to, so she's working, Capri Potter has kind of headed that committee, and she's written a skit. We're going to have an assembly. We've been doing some kickoff events. So some of your students might have said that teachers and staff members had cat ears on Monday. So we have a new clue coming up, and thanks to Morgan, he was really involved in that this upcoming Monday. So we're really excited about it. It gives us a chance to come together as a community. Mighty Nights, the after-school program, is off and running. Believe it or not, we have 3 blocks, and we're coming to the close of our first block. It's been very successful. We have had 30 students participate. 2 teachers are running that study along with the help of other teachers as well. So it's been really a nice time for students to practice some social skills as well as get some individual opportunities to do some academic type tasks in a really relaxed way. So that has been, and we've also, the older 3 through 5 students have worked with the younger students, so that's been really nice to have an opportunity to interact that way. All right, I'll skip a little bit. Oh, our elementary report cards. This is kind of along the lines of the elementary steering team as well, but we were able to do a couple of different things with report cards. And this push has come not only from the teachers, but also from the steering team. So we sent out surveys that went along with the second quarter report cards to teachers, parents, and students. I have yet to review them, but I was just thinking this is probably a good time to take a look at the results now. I think most people have had a chance to get their feedback in. If not, it would be great to do that. I work with Chris to really get the information out about the report cards. So he sent out some messages, and I sent out a voice message as well, because we really are, wanting parents to know that they're on the portal and to review them with their students. So that was a big project that we had looked at as well. Elementary, along the lines of our elementary steering team, we had 2 student council members join us at our steering team this last month and presented some ideas. It was really wonderful, and I just want to say publicly thank you to those students. And then we also had the PTO sent out an email, and we have some new members on the steering team, so I'm really excited about that. They've just, even, just from the one meeting, we've seen a lot of community support in terms of providing some items for us at recess. Recess is a popular topic, and it was with our student council members who gave us some really good ideas on how we could improve recess. Also, talk a little bit about what pizza day they preferred as well, and some really great fun things. So we celebrated the Global School Play Day on February 2nd. It came up really fast, and that was a real huge success. So the different classrooms did it in different ways, and it was just really wonderful to incorporate some of the SEL work that we've been working on the second step in just real life activities in the classroom. So, and our 100th day of school is falling in conjunction with Valentine's Day on Monday. So we have lots to celebrate this upcoming Monday as well. So actually this month has been just a ton of fun in elementary, really. I mean, there's lots of real collaborative projects, and we have some new ideas coming up for the spring, so I won't spoil those yet, but it's really been a fun month. So any questions, or?
What was the name of the book again?
I'm excited about it too. You can't do that to me.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Before Travis asks again.
You can ask someone else.
All the kids watching.
I don't know.
You're right. Marco's ready.
Big spoiler.
I would do it too. It's
I just have a few things to add to the report that I sent in. Tuesday evening, I was able to participate in a BOE CT program review. So every 5 years they need to do this for the states. So they have content area teachers get together along with teachers over at BOCES, along with administrators, business partners, a whole bunch of people come together and really comb through the BOCES curriculum and make sure that we're meeting all the points needed for credits toward graduation. And they also, in that process, come up with some good ideas of how to improve all the different programs that they're going through as well. So a lot of crosswalks through curriculum, making sure that we're meeting all the ELA requirements and we're getting integrated credits that way. So they're doing great work over there, a lot of hard work on their part, and then a lot of people involved in this meeting as well, providing feedback to make sure that the BOCES programs are up to the standards that we expect, and they are. A couple neat things that come out of it though, they come up with different ideas. They're working on something they're calling micro-credentials. So they're going to businesses, and they're asking, okay, so students coming to you fresh out of school, what are the skills that they need in order to be successful? And they've always looked for those pieces and tried to work on them within the school, but by creating this micro-credential program, they're giving certificates for achieving these specific skills. An example would be, if you go to a salon and you ask them what they're looking for, well, communication skills are one of the biggest things that they're looking for. They want somebody that's able to, talk to people on the phone, make appointments, use the technology for the calendar, and all of that. So they're identifying those skills, and then they're building programs and building ways to assess and give certificates to students, so they're walking away showing that they've met the criteria that they've set for those specific skills.
I'm going to jump in for a second. I had a presentation on this last night, and the teachers that are involved, there were 8 of them in the room, maybe 6 or 8 of them in the room last night, talking this exact topic, and they are super enthusiastic. They're the happiest teachers to be talking about this micro program, and they can see it really being beneficial to the students, because they're smaller stakes, right? And it's not necessarily a test-based, so students are able to achieve that and feel good about themselves, and then they therefore do better at other things in the classroom they're finding. It was really interesting to hear it last night and again today. So.
Yeah. So a lot of great things going on over there, but it does take a lot of hard work on their part to put all that together. So I thank everybody over there for all that they do. Colgate Education Programs is also having a review coming up, so I'll be a part of that process. SPAC, so SPAC is the principal group that I'm in, and we meet quite frequently, but there's some troubling news coming from other districts. So vaping has obviously been an issue, but a few students have had some adverse reactions to vaping, and so it's raising a lot of concerns, especially with the unknown contents of vaping devices. And so one thing we're doing is having a lot of conversation around that, looking for resources to help all the districts in our BOCES kind of handle this situation. But I'm also going to be part of a principal group that's looking at ways to develop a student-centered construction of PSAs or different knowledge-sharing opportunities for students. And one thing that came to mind during the meeting was this BBB video production that's going on. It's a contest that's occurring. Students jumped in and they're creating these awesome videos. So one thing we're going to look at is possibly, can we make a competition between different schools and students submit some videos and hopefully maybe get some airtime in different news channels. So we're beginning that process. It is an issue, it's a problem, it's scary because some of this stuff, if you don't know what it is, it's very easy to conceal, very hard to police. And the education piece is going to be really important. So informing the students, it's bad news, you need to stay away from it. We even talked about, I don't know, EPAC, they were going to bring it to EPAC as well, which is the elementary principals group, just to start having discussions about early prevention of this as well. As far as clubs, athletics has one more, I believe. The last one got canceled, so I think it's this weekend. Ski club, so they're at the new mountain. Things are going well there, I guess. The mountain is a little bit bigger than Toggenburg. They do not have Toggenburg chili, so that's upset a lot of people. But
food is the only complaint I've heard.
but the mountain itself, I'm hearing good things about it, and so everybody's having a good time there. Masters right around the corner, so that's coming right up. So the kids are working hard. And it's going to be we have included some younger students as well, so it's going to be quite a production. Chess club, art club, they've been meeting. Other clubs have been working on trying to come up with ways to fundraise. So fundraising is coming back in play. And I'm going to be collecting mid-year reports on all the different clubs and activities, so probably have more to share next time.
Just want to say thank you for being ahead of the whole vaping thing. Keep seeing that in the news. It's been very scary. So that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
So thank you for already.
It's and as more, trying to listen to more information about potentially what's in there. Fentanyl is obviously one that they're very concerned about getting into these products. We've had presentations and they've shown us what a vape could be. It's crazy. That pen you're holding right there.
So unsettling. That one where she was like vaping the whole time in her sweatshirt.
Yeah.
That I still.
So it's
So, do we have an Narcan program here?
Do we have Narcan in the building?
We do not.
So one thing that.
I can leave that there.
Yeah. One thing that did come up at the principal's meeting was your emergency response protocols. Looking at those emergency response protocols, making sure that everybody knows that, action needs to take place quickly.
Yeah. And then just the other comment, I can't remember where it was a medical conference several years ago, where they talked about the age that you need to introduce these topics and not be too late.
They had said that at the Bridges thing that we went to too, they were saying 8 years old.
And Bridges has been an awesome support to us, a great
They're amazing.
resource for a lot of these things.
So
I think
it is an elementary
Yes.
topic.
Well, talking with the
Age
principal
appropriately,
too,
right?
I think that in addition to that, we need to reach out to the community as a whole, because they're finding that parents are under the assumption that it's safer than cigarettes, so they're okay with it, in some cases, so. Yeah.
Parent education, I think. Is
Yes,
just
yeah,
important.
that's another piece, yep.
So not a question, but you have it on your report, the career, oh my gosh. And everything. The documents on the school webpage, that's great. It looks great. Thank you to your team, and I know the elementary has done work too. That's very helpful, so it's very exciting to see.
And actually, this last half day, there was some time built in as well for them to work on some of the feedback we received from the secondary steering committee. So it worked out well. So they have their individual documents they work on, and those edits were automatically reflected in that document. So it worked as planned, which was good. It's always good when that happens.
And thank you, Ellen, for getting into it.
Well, making.
Yeah.
Ready?
Oh, sure.
Oh, you just got it right up.
Hello,
Kevin, best of luck.
how's everyone doing?
Great, thank you.
Great.
You really have to ask after. We don't been here for the last time.
Just making small talk. I think, as Heather said, it seems like it's been a very, very busy month. I've put a lot of the things that the tech department has been up to in my report. Just some of the highlights. I don't know if maybe I should knock on wood or something, but it seems like we're covering a little less. So for teachers, I know I'm doing that, but what that has meant is been able to do a little bit of work on some of those projects that we've been putting on the back burner, which has been really, really nice. Some of those highlights, I've worked with Emily, the athletic director, and you may have seen an email come through unrolling a new program that we're using called Family ID. This is a part of that push to really modernize our systems, continue that push to get us to a paperless school. The great thing about Family ID is that if you enter your kid once, that will persist for the whole time that your student is here. So if they're going to participate in something in 7th grade, you won't have to ever enter their demographic information again. You will have to upload their new physical each year, but it's going to be great for the coaches and the nurse. All that information will be right at their fingertips. Lots of other schools are using it and they really, really like it. I'd like to give a public shout out to my technology committee. We are small but mighty. It's a small group, but they are really on top of things. We have been working for the past 2 months on the 2022-2025 instructional technology plan that has to be submitted to the state. Our first deadline to submit in the middle of April, but they're currently working on goals for the next 3 years. I'd like to present those to the board, and we have them done. Basically, we're working on things like what do we want our students to be able to do, in the next 3 years in terms of technology. But that team is working really hard, and they're great. I've also been able to work a lot with some teachers on some cool projects, which is
my favorite thing to do. I'm working with some elementary teachers about blending fiction and robotics, which I never thought we would do, but it's a cool unit, and we're collaborating on it together. Of course, we've been working with Johanna's classes in the drones. Recently, they made some cutting boards, and we laser engraved them for people who wanted them to be laser engraved. So that's been really, really great. We're also reviving the program that was super successful last year with the Cove, and bringing coding club to the elementary school. So that should hopefully kick off next week. Those are the highlights. Question?
So can you just walk us through, for people who might not be familiar, as we get a new platform like Family ID, where we're collecting this secure data, how all of the vetting is done for an outside, because this is an outside vendor.
Yep.
Providing us resources.
So really, this is where I really lean on the Regional Information Center. And this is one of those things where, Matt was talking about the way that we get money back on things that we buy. But they have the resources, they have whole teams of lawyers who vet these outside vendors, make sure that they follow federal and state laws when it comes to student privacy, and then they bargain for all of us. So they create contracts, and when we enter into those contracts, are already set up. So they have agreed to follow these laws and protect your data. One of the things that I think that it's good for parents is that the school doesn't actually see the data, that the company holds onto it. In terms of, like, if you lost your password or something like that, in terms of with Family ID, there's nothing I can do to help you, because I don't have access to any of that information.
Now, also, does that include vetting this company that it's not mining data internally for its own use of some kind?
Well, they have privacy policies that say that they're not. So I just have to sort of take them at their
Well,
yeah.
Rick's word.
Yes, and so that's Educational Law 2D in New York State explicitly prohibits that stuff, and we can't sign a contract with them unless they agree to it. So they're bound by law too, so hopefully they're honorable people. Yeah.
But the Rick is monitoring that too. It's not just hoping. They're actually active about it.
It would be impossible for us to do without their help.
Yeah.
We would have to negotiate every contract with any new vendor that we were interested in doing business with. Seeing that it's just me and Morgan, it'd be.
Yeah. I just think that it might be important for people who see, you just got this new plan, like you're not just picking this out of the air.
Oh, no.
Something, it's something that's been vetted, there's a whole process that goes into vetting these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at this point, when it comes to picking any new software that we're interested in, I go to the RICS list first.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare that I veer from anything that's not approved by them, simply because they've already negotiated the contract.
Great. Thank you.
And the RIC won't support anybody who's not 2D compliant.
Right. No, they can't.
So Chris, with Family ID too, is there any component to that for communication out to parents?
So
or?
there is. I haven't activated that component yet. Emily really wanted to get it up and running before spring sports.
Parents really want to get it up.
So we really had to rush. So we only got that one component, but I've heard that there are others. I'm going to get a presentation on the other things that it can do. But yes, there are some components where you can push things out to parents just for them to sign things digitally, like permission slips and that sort of thing.
Is there a tool in it to communicate with the parents in terms of like where a coach would get like their roster and be able to communicate information out?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can do all that stuff.
Okay, great.
One thing with it, you mentioned physicals. Now, in the past, if a student needed their physical to get to the school, their doctor would forward it to the nurse's office. Is there a change in that?
So they can still do that. I mean, we have the ability, if the doctor does that, we can take a copy of that and put it into Family ID, so that when you pull up the kid, you see the physical.
So that option is still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The great thing, one of the efficiencies that it does for the nurse is it will automatically remind the nurse, hey, this person's going to be out of compliance in 2 weeks. Like she'll be getting active alerts, so she'll know who is running out of.
Who needs a?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last, but certainly not least, Kevin, your turn.
Thank you. Make this fairly short. So just aside from the report that I gave, I just really wanted to highlight one thing. That's the second paragraph in my report. It has to do with the SEL team meeting with small groups in the elementary. That was the focus of our half day today. So our school counselor, Sherry Houck, and Michelle Spencer, our school psychologist, myself, Debbie Staley, our behavioral specialist from the Calvin Center, works here once a week for a full day, gathered together and met with pods of teachers today, and really to listen more than anything. We have an overwhelming, and you've heard former reports say an overwhelming SEL kind of need, more so than we've ever had. We wanted to listen to teachers and get feedback on how we can support them better. So we went to them and really just listened today and connected well. And so one of the things that came out, a lot of things came out of the conversation today, but one of the things that I just wanted to share was new kind of for all of us. So we've recognized that we've had kids that are coming back that are, that are in higher stress, they have anxiety, they're exhibiting behavioral concerns in classrooms. And so we knew that was going on. One of the things that came out of me today was that the academic needs are also, for those students who are in stress, are also widening. In essence, the gap that was already wide is widened even farther. And we talked a little bit about what we were seeing and hearing and why that is. The kids that were home during COVID and on remote for essentially a year and a half, that had really good supports at home, have come back and really haven't skipped a beat. They haven't lost any learning. Some have actually gained. And so that was one thing. But kids that didn't have the supports at home fell further behind. And so the gap widened academically. Now that we're back to school full time, those same kids who fell further behind is now exacerbated by stress and anxieties that also took place during that time. We've got some K1, 2 students that really haven't been to school, don't really know how to communicate, how to collaborate, how to play with each other. The PE teacher was in all of our groups, and she commented that the kids they don't know how to play team sports. They have played team sports. Some of them haven't been around peers for a year and a half. So you've got this widening gap academically that's being exacerbated by this even now that we're back and we're here. Their anxiety and their stress is getting in the way of them learning now. So it's even further widening. So it's something that we're seeing. So we talked a little bit about what can we do. How do we close that gap, which we were already trying to close prior to COVID. And so there are a few ideas that people came up with. And one is really putting SEL needs first. We're allowing teachers, Heather and I talked at length with each group, to prioritize their curriculum. What's important, what really needs academically to take place, and kind of parsing out some things that you could probably get away with not presenting, and replacing that with some social emotional learning. And so, we provided teachers with a second step that's new this year. So it's one resource that they have, but on a tier 2 and a tier 3 level. So how can counselors, behavioral specialists, school psychologists, how can our team help in providing teachers that SEL needs? So we're looking at different ways that they can do that. Debbie Patrick, our behavioral specialist, has been amazing to get in and support teachers. She's going into the classroom. She's meeting with the grade levels. About every 3 weeks, she gets into every grade level, sits in on a grade level team, talks about individuals, talks about small groups and large groups, and how she can support the teachers. She goes in and sees the kids in action, teachers in action, and provides modeling and essential resources for them. So that's a couple of the things, just kind of prioritizing the curriculum. What do we really need to teach, and then essentially saying, if SEL needs are needed, then they need to come first, because learning can't take place if the kids aren't able to see the learning, because there's so much going on. So that's just something that came away from the meeting today I wanted to share with you, and something that we're working towards is really building social emotional learning into the curriculum more and more, and being a part of what teachers have to do. So just wanted to share that piece. Lots and lots going on, annual meetings, other stuff. So that's just our priority. That's the out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I will start with Emily Freet's athletic update. The winter sports season is almost over. Modified basketball will be finished by February 16th. The JV basketball teams will be done playing on February 14th, and the varsity teams will be playing in sectionals. The seeding meeting for boys and girls basketball will take place on Wednesday, February 16th. We're hopeful that the boys and girls basketball teams will do well in sectional play. Athletics is moving forward with spring sports signups, which will begin on Monday, February 14th. As Chris alluded to register and sign up, students for spring sports will now be using the platform called Family ID. Almost all other schools in the Center State Conference use this program. Family ID is a secure registration platform that provides an easy, user-friendly way to register for our sports programs and helps us be more administratively efficient and environmentally responsible.
I do have a question on that, sorry. I've only heard a little bit about it, and my kids aren't that age, so I don't know, but from what I heard, the parents have to sign the kids up for the sport instead of the kids signing the kid up for the sport. So two things. One, what if the parent signing the kid up that doesn't want to play, like I would do to my kid, right? Oh, you're going to play, I did to Kevin, you're going to play basketball, he hasn't been to all but one, right? So what's that do to our numbers? And two, what if the kids don't have the good support at home to do that? How are they?
So
how are they getting
we as
around that?
administrators can sign them up
Okay.
if they can't get signed up at home. Both myself and Mrs. Freed
Okay.
have the ability to do that, and we can always remove them if a parent signs them up for something that they don't want to do. We
I just want to make sure
take them out.
that those two pieces are passed to the students so that they know, like, Mom, I've told you I need you to sign me up, I need you to sign me up, I need you to sign me up, and they don't. I don't want the student to miss out on.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't penalize them then, particularly in this transition.
Right. I just want, just making sure that they understand that.
Yeah.
And for the parents to understand some of that too.
Good.
Okay.
Many thanks to Mr. Rogers for his help in moving forward with this platform. The spring sports that we'll be offering are varsity baseball, varsity softball, varsity track and field, varsity golf, varsity tennis, modified baseball, and modified softball. We're combined with Casanova for girls lacrosse. Varsity sports begin on March 14th, and modified sports begin on April 14th. Many thanks to the board and HCS administration for your continued support of athletics. Thank you to the transportation department for driving our athletes to their games, the buildings and grounds for ensuring our facilities are always ready for practices and games, and to Mrs. Marcellus for always taking care of our students. So that is from Mrs. Freet as the athletic director. I'll move into my report. I'd like to start by publicly thanking Deb Welsh for her work that she has done every morning to manage our substitutes, and to our administrative team for helping make that happen. It's been a juggling act. Some mornings we're close, with the number of teachers that are out, faculty and staff, and the number of subs that we have available. Mark has been teaching biology and juggling that, and Chris has been covering for Mark as the middle school and high school principal. Kevin and Heather have been in classrooms. Chris has been in classrooms. So it's truly a team effort, but Deb Welsh every morning has been doing a tremendous job. So I just want to publicly thank her for her help with that.
Can you remind us how many days we've had to miss because of staffing?
0.
Oh, that's good.
0. Yep, and there's many schools that have had to transition to remote because of lack of staffing, and we haven't. So, and that's the willingness of this team and our faculty and staff to help out. So thank you to all.
And to echo that, I don't believe that we've missed any athletic conferences or
We've not.
competition for lack of drivers.
For lack of drivers, yeah. So we're truly in a good place. Everyone has gone above and beyond and has been truly flexible and willing to help out for the benefit of our students, and that's important. We're in a really good place. To continue our work on campus security assessments and developing some plans, Trooper DeRoshi, I mentioned last month, was here and did an assessment. And one of the things he was adamant about was to have a really solid threat assessment protocols in place. So we allowed our counseling staff and our school psychologists a half day to collaborate and start to put together a real solid threat assessment program, which they did. They have some topics that need to be discussed with our crisis team, but that work is happening in-house. So I think that's a really good thing for us. Identifying threats or students that are in real crisis, assessing them, and then appropriately taking the next steps for those students to mitigate threats early on and identify. So that's good work by our counselors and our school psychologists. Continuing our work in DEI, we had a half-day professional development yesterday. An hour was dedicated to DASA training for our faculty and staff, and some talk around LGBTQ+ concerns that we have faced within the district. Heather Cole, who was one of our attorneys through Farrar Fiorenza, provided that training. It was beneficial. We're going to continue to work and put together, refine our DASA processes and work on our DEI policy, which we're working with our policy committee. The administrators also went through an hour presentation with Heather on DASA and proper reporting, proper follow through with DASA complaints. So I think it was really beneficial. Mark mentioned micro-credentialing. We met all of the Madison County superintendents. President Rogers at Morrisville College hosted a meeting with us, with a lot of community partners. Assemblyman Salka was there, BOCE's representatives, to talk about how do we develop more agribusiness opportunities and work-based learning opportunities for our students. And how do we micro-credential those processes? How do we provide more access to community partners to do work-based learning? So the Assemblyman is going to take that back to the legislature to look at funding to help school districts with that process, because it's going to cost. We need coordinators within each district. President Rogers is very supportive as far as concurrent enrollments and dual credit opportunities. So that's exciting. It will be really good for our kids and for community partners to have that in place. So that's in work. Masking. There's been a lot of talk throughout the state and the country about mask mandates and the mandates that schools are under, and if those mandates are going to be lifted. There's some confusion about business mandate was lifted yesterday by the governor. school mask mandates are still in effect. And the governor has been very explicit that those mandates will remain in effect through February break, and she will revisit in early March. And they are looking at putting together some metrics, and those metrics will be used to determine if the state mandate in schools is going to be lifted. If they are lifted, we will work as a board and with our medical director. You know, if the state does not come out with different protocols, you know, some metrics, and we do not have to use metrics, then that's a decision that we'll have to discuss as a board and as a district. If we're required to put together local metrics, we'll work with our medical director to put those in place. But right now, we are holding steady. We'll follow the guidance as we've done since the pandemic started from state ed and from the State Department of Health, and listen to our local experts when that time comes. But until that time comes, we are requiring masks.
But do you mind if I follow up on that?
Absolutely.
So thinking about that and the possibility of it comes down to the board needing to make a decision, and I'll share some of this with you in an email, but just so the rest of the board and the rest of your team knows, I think it'd be important for us to have a certain amount of information on certain things. A few things that I would want to know would be if we could get solid data on the vaccination rates for as local of our district as we can. I don't know how much they parse those, but if we can get as much data as possible. I know it's not possible to get data from people, from students. We can't force them to disclose that necessarily, but if we can get at least the region, I think that would help me at least knowing when we feel safe. If there could be some kind of survey, formal, informal, that you and your team are doing of how staff and students are feeling about the mask, because I think that masks, and if they're feeling like it's safe, or if there's some real fears about this, I think we need to take that into consideration too, if it is up to us as the board and there's no direct guidance from the state. Also ensuring that we have, for those who can't be vaccinated, especially, or those who continue to feel unsafe, that they have access to N95, N95 masks, if there is a move away from it, universal masking. And I think those are the main things, but I think, you know, as we think about this, hopefully there's some guidelines, and we can continue to follow guidelines. But in the case that we are left as a district to make the decision just for our district, I think there's some work that would be nice to have our team start to do proactively about what is the type of data we can get and what are the types of things we can do to be prepared, so that when we have to make that decision, we're making decisions based on as much information as possible. Because I think there are some good faith arguments about the pedagogical benefits of removing masks in school, but only to the degree that it's going to continue to have public health benefits as well. So I think when we need to balance those concerns, we have as much information as possible. That would be great.
Okay.
So thank you for all your work on this.
Sure. Any other questions for me?
Is that your whole report?
That is it.
All right. That brings us to steering committee, elementary steering committee.
I missed the last meeting.
Okay. Heather?
So
You're getting some.
very disappointed that I missed the kids.
I know. They'll be back though, so I think it was a highlight for all of us. So I just to recap, we really heard from the two students that came to present, so the two fifth grade students. That was the primary. I'm just trying to think if there was anything more. That was really the focus of it.
And you mentioned recess. Were there other big themes?
Oh, yeah, so actually, I'm just going to take a minute because I have 2 pages worth of ideas. So lots of ideas, and some things like, you know, it was just so good to hear student voice. I think that was something that at our superintendent's day early on that we had talked about, and it was, you know, it was just great to hear. So one of the things that they had said, recess lunch was also something that they really had strong opinions on, like when to have particular meals. I think they were missing our typical Friday pizza and, you know, things like that. Like you wouldn't think that might be that important.
Wednesday.
Say it again?
It has been weekly on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, yes, but it was interesting that, and these were fifth graders, so I think they were just kind of remembering back to pizza on Friday. They had talked also a little bit about dress code in the elementary, and so that was something that wasn't on my radar, so to speak. They also talked about some like facility things in terms of the lockers and explained, you know, some of the things that they'd like to see curriculum-wise, more art curriculum, bringing back some climbing ropes and PE, class pets they had mentioned. They'd like to update the garden out front was something that they had talked about. And then lots of, multiple hot and cold choices for lunches. Indoor recess. So yeah, some really good ideas. I also talked a little bit about walking in the school as a form of exercise. And I remember visiting a school that did that. So I thought that was really neat, especially you know, in the winter months when we had a little stretch of indoor recess that was tricky. So yeah, really good ideas. Just great.
I think everyone can get behind Friday pizza.
I know.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Friday week.
Secondary?
So we talked a lot about being proactive, about getting feedback from students and parents about how things are going in school, especially how things are going in terms of student classroom experience. So at the risk of becoming the secondary survey committee, we're thinking about other surveys that we can send out, or other ways that we can get feedback, because we realize that, you know, the passive feedback sometimes doesn't come, and there's people who have things they want to say and may not feel like it's being heard. So even showing the effort that we're reaching out, we're trying to get information from people, may even help encourage people to be more willing when they have an issue or a concern, that they're willing to bring it up because they understand that we're being proactive and really looking to find changes. And I think that will be helpful, especially as we just come from using the curriculum maps to thinking about how do we get more feedback on the student experience with that as well. So I think that was the main thing we talked about. Did I miss anything?
No, you know, we're looking at two main categories, kind of building a toolbox for teachers to build their own surveys for their own personal use to get information from students. And then the idea of a more general survey for everyone that could provide information just on their experience, like Corey was talking about.
Maybe like class-based, we know like the class year, how things are going for them, kind of survey. And I think that would complement with when we start getting more alumni survey feedback.
Yeah.
We kind of start to compare a lot of the trends over time. Would be really useful to that.
I'm up next for Emerald Foundation. I skipped the meeting. Sorry, Emerald Foundation. It was this week. They, when the Stewart shop opened, they were a part of the grand opening, and it was in the newspaper, and there was money given to the Emerald Foundation, and yep, they donated $2,000. And so that was some really good PR for the Emerald Foundation and you know, for the school itself through that. And they've got they're working on getting some new members, and a whole bunch of other things that are in the works. So next month I'll have a better report. Sorry. Knowledge sharing, there was something.
I went to a webinar today about curriculum development and what the school board's role is in the curriculum development. I think this is stemming a lot, obviously, from renewed interest in curriculum for whatever reason people think they need to know what the curriculum is. They didn't really go into so much of the controversial side of things, which I was glad about. What they really talked a lot more about was having, you know, there are all these guidelines in place for the curriculum and how it's developed by the school. Not so many about what the school board's role is in there. So school boards have a lot of different ways that they do it. It's basically internal policy. Sometimes it just comes to school board at the end for final approval. Sometimes it's just presented to the school board. Sometimes there's, points along the way that school board can give input and the public can give input. But I think that what was my biggest takeaway from that was that creating some kind of, or having in place a plan that's as transparent and open to people as possible. And it puts a link to some documents they shared with us. One from Albany that's just, it reminded me of exactly what we were doing with the curriculum mapping, but now just how are we, this year, this is year one of curriculum for ELA. We're implementing our new curriculum. Year two is review, year three is review, and it's every year, what are we gonna do with it? We're implementing it, we're reviewing it, and then in year five, we're gonna review and see, do we need to renew this? Do we need to keep this curriculum? What are we doing? And I think that those are things that we have in place, but maybe it goes along with our curriculum mapping to have a sheet that just says, here's our review process for our curriculum, here's what we're going, when it's happening, and so people have an idea, the general public has an idea. And then they also said, making it very clear as part of the training of new board members, which apparently in a year we might have to deal with. Letting them know, what that process is. So the curriculum development is part of that. So the board members understand, okay, here's what my role is in this. Am I presenting it? And I think that Albany District talked about that they never adopt a new curriculum the day that they present it in a board meeting. So it gets presented to the board, like we do with policy, it's kind of like a first read type thing, and then that gives them some time to get feedback from the board, feedback from the public, and then those things can get, obviously a different situation, but I think, that's having it clear and clearly established seems like a really good idea. And then when questions come up about the curriculum from the public, it's not the board thinking like, well, I don't know where this came from or how it's being reviewed or what it is. We can say, well, there's a process in place. Like we talked about this in this is a spoiler alert for our learning materials policy that we're looking at. But having a policy in place, we can always point to and say, this is the process we go through. If you don't like something, this is how the process works. You might not like the process, but this is what the process, and like the outcome, but at least there's a process that's clear, transparent, and open to everybody to put some kind of input in it at some point.
Well, thank you for going about.
Yeah, it was very good. Good.
And to piggyback off that, I shared with you guys the podcast for the board's role in developing the budget as well, which is worth, I think it was like 16 minutes or something like that, which, especially being this time of year, is just helpful as well.
All right, we've got Ms.
So for advocacy stuff, I already went over some of it because obviously a lot of it is budget related. So there was, I attended the Capitol Conference, which was virtual again on February 2nd. The big thing was a conversation with the Commissioner, Betty Rosa, and Senior Deputy Commissioner Jim Baldwin. They spent a lot of time talking about funding opportunities for social emotional learning and mental health. They did say over and over again that they do know that it's an issue within the state and really trying to search for funding for that. So that was good. Some things that got brought up from NISBA about what they felt was left out of the budget that they're asking, to go back to your boards and possibly advocate for, were updates and adjustments to the foundation aid formula, BOCE's aidable salary cap and special services aid, prior year aid claims, statewide universal school meals programs, property tax caps, and fund balance limits. So those were the big things that they had mentioned.
What were they saying about a universal meal plan?
So there's been a big push to provide free meals to everybody, like what we're doing now, but to be able to continue that and actually have it be funded and not the schools taking a hit on it.
I think it would sort of mirror the community eligibility program that they recently implemented, that it would be universal to all school districts. You wouldn't necessarily have to meet a certain criteria to qualify that.
Yeah, we've seen an uptick in our lunch.
Participation?
Participation this year.
No.
It's been about the same.
Specifically.
I would have to say, my kids have reported an increase in their liking of
Good, all right.
That's good.
Yeah,
We're
we're,
creators that
And that-
lunch back.
I was gonna say, pizza day, that's how you do it.
and I see online and I hear rumblings from other, and that's not common. I mean, if anything, it's trending the other direction in terms of satisfaction. You know, Andrea's, our kids get pretty good meals here. She does a really good job of utilizing what she has and getting creative in the menu items, so. And I do think most kids are pretty satisfied with what we have to offer.
A couple other things that they talked a lot about was technical education, which seems to be a trend in the micro-credentialing, and really, I know that they're putting a big push on SUNY institutions as well to be able to partner with local high schools to be able to give students those skills that they may need. They talked a ton about advocating for an increase in BOCES aid, and then I sent you guys out the predetermined letter to send to the state legislature, so thank you for doing that. And then again, just trying to go through the resolutions process for anything that really means a lot to us. So Matt, thank you for helping to do that. I look forward to that 6-hour long meeting again.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing for that.
Thank you.
Are this micro certification discussion, is it local, regional, or is it statewide?
It's statewide.
It is statewide, good. It carries much more power in meeting that way,
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I can share something on this, because Michelle suggested so the area 5 of NISBA needed a representative on a committee on DEI, a statewide committee, so I sent my name in and they quickly added me to the committee, so I guess area 5 wasn't banging down the door for this, so.
Thank you, Corey, because I drafted it and I was like, do I send?
So
Thank you.
hopefully in this advocacy that I may have some DEI stuff to do as I figure out what I'm doing.
At 8 o'clock Saturday morning.
8 o'clock this Saturday.
Your first agenda item would be to push for that DEI COSER,
Yes.
statewide COSER.
That's a good one,
Yeah.
You'll be a good person for that team.
Great.
Please mark your calendars, Wednesday, April 6th, 6 p.m. is the most annual BOCES annual meeting. It is still up in the air whether it's in person or virtual, but we do hope that there's participation from all the board members at the meeting, regardless, but especially if it's in person.
Sorry, let's do this again.
April 6th, 6 p.m. And I don't have a location for in person yet, because they're working on some things. We had some discussion last night about that. So, yeah, are there any comments for us online? No. Do we have anybody watching right now?
Well, there's 5, but I'm one of them.
Well, yay, thank you for those who watched it.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll skip that part, and I need a motion to adjourn to executive. I can't talk tonight.
I don't know what year it is, and you can't talk, we're good.
A motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss matters regarding the employment history of particular individuals and matters regarding public safety.
I'll move. A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. We're not voting, so thank you all. Have a wonderful night. We will not be coming back online to close the meeting.